Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, how you doing out there, guys? This is GFT Radio show. Now, it's your boy Clint. Got a good show headline for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about racism within the black community. We're going to talk about Cam Newton in the Super Bowl, how racism is playing a part in that. We want to touch on the Willie Lynch letter. We're going to touch on a lot of things tonight. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Jabril.
What up? It's your boy J. Rowe, chilling here, JFT Radio Show. You know how it is each and every Thursday, 10 o'clock until pretty much we get done doing what we do.
Yes, sir. Sonny, you on the line?
Yes, I am. Hello. Hey, guys.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Me personally, when this topic came up, it's Black History Month, so a lot of we're going to deal with a lot of history this month about the African American culture. But my thing was, like, racism still is alive and well today, and I noticed it's a big change. I've noticed there's become a lot more black people that are just flat out and blatant racist. Now, before it used to be, people used to say black people can't be racist because it's racism stems from a form of racial superiority, and black people don't have we've been slaves in America, so we don't have that superiority complex to where we can feel superior to somebody. But if you look around and you do your due diligence, like it's Pan-African movement, a lot of people in the Nation of Islam, they preach that black people are the supreme race where, we've been here forever, the white people are the degenerate race or what so have you and stuff like that. And then there's a lot more people that just have pure hate for the white man just because of past history. So they don't want to hear nothing. You can't tell them nothing. So I just wanted to hear what you guys had to think about that.
Like I had said, we got this message earlier, and we were talking about, what we were going to discuss this week, and, you came out with the question of, can black people be racist? And my answer to that is, yes, they can. And I had said, I'm not talking about the 1950s, I'm going to hate everybody because, they hate me type racist people. I'm talking like there's 2016 racist people still in the world. There's black racists, and we have the extreme racist people, and then you have like those kind of I don't know how you explain it. You got the two different spectrums. You got the real extreme racist people, and you have like those undercover kind of racist people. Like you say, you have these religions, and not even really religions, but these people out here who are preaching that the black man is the almighty man, and the white man is the devil, and things like that. That's a form of racism. It's a form of racism there. It might not be what you're used to seeing as people say racism or racist or things like that, but things like that are subtle hints and subtle hits at racism, and it's definitely alive. There definitely are black racists out there. I'm not talking about my grandpa who was back in the day who hates a white man because he grew up in the 20s and 30s and he couldn't look at a white woman. I'm talking like real racist people. Young people, old people, there's racist people out there.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that say a lot of black folk that say they hate white people. And I agree that there can be black people that are racist. And like you said, it is very much alive. Whether it's, they hate, like they can't believe that anybody white is not racist. They're the ones that say that you don't think they're calling you the N-word when they're not around you, whether it's a coworker, it's people that are Caucasian and stuff like that. They just think that they behind closed doors they calling us like coons and some probably are.
Now let me put this out here. Now there's a difference between racist and prejudice. So, it might be a fine line, but there's definitely a difference. Like some people might get racist confused with prejudice. Like there's a fine line between those two things, and that's something that has to be brought up in the discussion as this one. Like you have to be able to differentiate between the two of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both centered around hate, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But racism, that's like, it's basically it's a supremacy thing. You feel me? Like, we feel like our race is better than your race. Now, I mean, your race is inferior to us. That's how white supremacy and that's how black supremacy go. You know what I mean? So my thing is, I have friends who blatantly feel like white people are devils. You know what I mean? They'll feel like, there's some good ones, but for the most part, you know what I mean, they don't have a trust for white people, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Due to history and due to their own interactions with white people. You know what I mean? Sometimes I have to point out that your interactions are sometimes limited. You know what I mean? Like, how many white people have you grown up around, and how many have you worked with or been around on a consistent basis? You know what I mean? To say that. You know what I mean? So it also stems from ignorance. You know what I mean? And it also stems from just pure non-trust. You know what I mean? But like J. Rose said, it's a thin line between being prejudiced and being racist. You know what I mean? Because I know my friend, he really don't feel like black people are superior. You know what I mean? He doesn't come that way. He don't feel like, but he just have a strong issue with white people. You know what I mean? Like, it runs deep. I know for me personally, the reason why I have a different perspective from a lot of people and my friends I grew up with is from like ninth grade to like, I say the middle of 10th grade year, I went to a whole different high school. I didn't attend Trenton High. I left Trenton and went to a high school out PA, and it was predominantly white. You know what I mean? It was probably about, 4 or 5 black people at most in my section of the school. So, I really only dealt with a couple of them. You know what I mean? So I experienced blatant racism towards me, but I also experienced, a lot of cool white people. You know what I mean? I got into a fight. I was suspended, 12 days for the white guy called me a nigger. You know what I mean? We got into it. I went crazy. We started fighting, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But on the same token, when I came back from suspension, I walked into class, I got a standing ovation. Like, it was crazy. All white people stood up and was clapping because they understood, you know what I mean, what happened. And all of them didn't feel that way. So I could never sit there and be like all white people or feel superior towards white people, because I've experienced the ugly, but I also experienced the good, you know what I mean, off the same situation. So, you know what I mean, but I noticed a lot of my friends, they don't have that interaction. They never had that interaction with white people. All theirs was negative. It's through the police, through teachers that talk down to them and stuff like that. So, you know what I mean, it's deep out here.
Yeah, just before you get back into I think I want to give out the number just in case anyone wants to call in and chime in on the conversation. Our number is 657-383-1155. Now, I have a question for you, Jabril. Have you ever experienced racism yourself?
Race, like I say, it's kind of hard to decide whether it was a racist act or just a prejudice act. I'll tell you a story. I went to Massachusetts with on some military business a couple of years ago, and we went to a restaurant. It was me, being black, of course. It was another black girl with us, one black female, a Spanish guy, and a Spanish girl. You know, we go to this restaurant. We're out of town. We're up Massachusetts. We go to the restaurant, sit down. You know, first of all, it took them like 20 minutes to seat us. So we sat down, ordered some drinks. They come to us and tell us, we need 2 forms of ID. I'm like, why do you need 2 forms of ID? Like, I have a military ID. Like, that's like the highest form of ID that you can have. Like, you know what you have to go through to get a military ID. Like, I could probably get a birth certificate easier than not give me a military ID. But anyway, we sit down at the table. They tell us they need 2 forms of ID. We give them the 2 forms of ID. They finally take our drink orders. I order a drink. The lady says, I ordered a fish bowl. It comes in a bowl that you're supposed to take with you. It's a souvenir. The lady says, we don't have any more fish bowls. All right, no problem. I see a couple of my Army buddies in there, and I tell him, like, yo, order a fishbowl. Now, first of all, let me tell you that the guy that ordered the fishbowl, he was maybe 19 years old. They didn't ask him for ID or anybody else at the table for ID. And, of course, they were a bunch of white guys, all of them out of town. We're all out of town. They didn't ask him for ID or anything. He winds up getting served, 19 years old, didn't ask for ID, and she bought him a fishbowl and told him that he could take it home with him. I'm like, all right, no problem, We order our food. It takes them forever to bring our food out. Food orders are all wrong. We complain about that. Bill comes. Pay the bill. It's supposed to be like $50 and change. The dude takes the money and never comes back with our change, and then comes up to us when we say something like, oh, you wanted your change back? Like, yo, dude, it's like $50 and change. Like, we just dropped the whole thing here. How you going to tell us we're not getting no change back? Long story short, like I say, we felt that we were, like I say, it's a thin line between prejudice and racist. Like, it's kind of hard to say, were we being singled out because there was a whole minority table there and everybody else there with us was white, or was it just like honest mistakes that were being made throughout the night? It's hard for us to say, and it's kind of like it wasn't blatant, like they didn't blatantly come out and say anything, but it was like little things like that had us thinking the whole night, like, damn, like, is it really like this up in Massachusetts? Like, you think of Massachusetts, it's real up there. There's a bunch of rich white folks out there, and to see a whole bunch of minorities sitting at a table in a restaurant, you sit there and not know what's happening or what to think about that situation. That was just one example of something that happened. I mean, I can name plenty of other times when things have happened, but like I say, something like that, you just like, yo, there's really people still out here in the world like that do things like that. And that's up north. Imagine if you go down south. There's some real racist things that happen down south. I got some stories. I mean, I've been to South Carolina and had some things happen to me out there, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
All right, guys, we got a caller on the line. I'm going to see if they want to chime in on our discussion. I'm going to put them in for a minute, so you guys hold on for a second. Caller, would you like to join the conversation?
Yeah, hey, this is Willie Styles. How y'all doing tonight?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Willie.
Hey, been listening in, and I definitely feel a lot of the comments that have been made already, and definitely can agree on most of the things that were said. The only thing I wouldn't say I disagree, but I can say I kind of have a different feeling about, because I think somebody mentioned, one of the brothers did, that that being prejudiced stems from hate. So I personally, and this goes back to Mark, I think it was Mark Cuban made some statements, right? And I personally feel like being prejudiced is not exactly completely stemming from hate. I think it kind of stems from misunderstandings, right? From stereotypes, from how you perceive people to be, right? And actually to your story as well, I think it was Jabril just talking, your story as well, in terms of what was it, racist or was it prejudice, right? It's kind of hard to tell because, like you said, they threw out subtleties, right? There's things that you noticed because it was being done to you. Other people around you may either not have noticed because either they weren't paying attention or they kind of felt like it was necessary because they too have a prejudice about the situation. But the thing is that I think a lot of people who are prejudiced, and let me go back to what I was saying about Cuban. So Cuban made the statement that, he has no problem with black people. He has no problem with, I think he mentioned either Latinos or some other race, but then he mentioned that, he has his prejudices, right? If he goes down a street and he feels like it's not a good neighborhood, or if he sees somebody, be it black or whatever, if they're in a hoodie, he might feel like he needs to cross the street, right? And quiet as it kept, a lot of black people said, yeah, I would do the same thing, and it has nothing to do with being a racist. It has something more to do with being prejudiced to the situation, right? If you're in a situation where you're around people who you're not comfortable with, right? Be it the same race, different social status, different financial status. Like in the case of being in Massachusetts, if you're in one of those more upper class areas and you come in, you look like a college student, they're going to treat you like a college student. They're not going to treat you like you got some money. They're not going to treat you, some of them could be white, they can do you like that. I've had a friend that was living in like southeast or southwest Michigan, and here in Michigan, we don't have a lot of classes, but, unfortunately, poor white folks will treat you a certain way if they feel like you got money. They'll treat you a certain way. They'll treat you like, you impeding on their traffic. You doing them wrong because you got money. And that's how he always felt when he was around people who had less money than him, and vice versa. If you go to the northern part of Detroit, or the metro Detroit rather, West Bloomfield Hill, stuff like that, the more upper middle class people, then they're not even upper class, they're upper middle class. They will treat you differently if you come in looking like you're from the hood. So some of them are more because of the prejudice, right? They got the stereotypes in their mind. I think that's a lot of it, So not to say that they hate you or they think they're superior from a black-white perspective. They might feel they're superior from perception, from what they've seen on TV versus what they see you doing personally.
Yeah. Okay. I noticed the difference. You're right. Because I said hate earlier. The prejudice is simply just prejudging somebody, because that's basically where the word stems from. Prejudging a situation or person without, knowing everything about them. Racism is completely different. Completely different. That's, you feel like you're superior. So, like you said, a lot of people really probably don't feel like they're superior. They're probably just prejudiced because they don't know you, or stuff like that. I want to get into the, when we started this topic, Jabril had brought up about the backlash that Cam Newton has been facing during the Super Bowl. Now, do y'all think that stems from racism or prejudice?
I think it's, me personally, I would say prejudiceness, but at this, like with a hint of racism, because it's kind of hard for me to explain what I mean, because I just think that they, like you said, they're prejudging him because they're used to normal, white people who are doing the same thing he's doing. They're used to him doing the same things, but it's not the first. Like, people celebrate when they make touchdowns. People do things like that. How he chooses to do it is how he chooses to do it. He's not the first person to do a dance or do any type of anything once people, they celebrate. So I don't see what the big problem is, but maybe he's not the first black guy to just celebrate once they do a touchdown or do a good pass or whatever. I don't watch football, so I don't really know what they do, but he's not the first one. I remember a couple of them had different dances that people did when they made a touchdown. So what is that big idea?
It's not even just touchdown. It's celebrating whatever, whether it's a touchdown, whether it's a sack, whether it's an interception. You have people out there who celebrate all the time. Now, of course, Cam Newton does it differently because he's in the spotlight because, one, he's a black male, he's a quarterback, he's young, and he's basically winning. He's on top right now, and he celebrates. That's what the whole point is. You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars. You're out here to entertain these people and these fans. Of course, you're out there to win and everything, but you do something good, you're going to celebrate. Whether you're playing basketball, football, baseball, whatever sport you're doing, you have these NASCAR drivers out here who are winning. They do donuts in the middle of the track after they win, but you don't hear anybody complaining about that.
Exactly.
Guys that hit home runs in baseball and they flick the baseball bat, but nobody complains about that. You got boxers and MMA fighters out here who are winning and celebrating, backflipping off the cage and all kind of things, and nobody complains about that. But Cam Newton picked up a trend and is doing dancing and dabbing as soon as he scores a touchdown and gives the ball to a kid, and people have lost their mind over something like that.
Let me ask y'all something now. It was crazy that Jabril was he wanted to piggyback off that, because that was the whole reason why I brought up the topic. because when I first was, you know what I mean, when the Super Bowl, you know, when the teams were won, Carolina won, and Denver won, I was watching a show, First Take on ESPN. You know, everything was going good. They were talking about the show, and then the guy Stephen A. Smith, if y'all watch the show, he's a black guy, and he brought up the fact of how the narrative for the Super Bowl was going to change because, you know, Cam was black, and, you know what I mean, the young guy, he out there dancing. Peyton's the old, you know what I mean, standard white guy. This may be his last year. You know what I mean? I feel like most of the stuff came up from black people, most of the concerns, you know what I mean, the sensitivities. I think sometimes we as black people are too sensitive to certain things. You know what I mean? We're always looking, not necessarily to complain, but, you know, it's like having PTSD or something like that. It's like, you know what I mean, we're so sensitive to any perceived slight that we automatically go into self-defense mode. You know what I mean, as black people, and we start, you know what I mean, and sometimes it leads us to attack other races. You know, like it was this meme on Facebook. They had a Michelle Obama, right? You know, and then, you know, they about to leave office. So at the top of the meme it said, you know, this will be the last time we'll have a stunning, beautiful first lady in the office. You know what I mean? Now we're going back to the old hags and pale faces that, you know what I mean, get all old quick. And it took me by surprise. I'm like, damn. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. No, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool to feel pride, to have pride about, you know what I mean, a black woman in office being beautiful, whatever. But did you have to automatically just totally disrespect, you know what I mean, a whole race of women at the same time? Mind you, this was a black woman who posted to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
But
so
that
it's like
that. Say like that. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that goes to say, you remember when Obama first got into office? Oh, well, he not really black. He only half black. And that was black folk. They only let him be president because he half black and he not all the way like darker. That becomes that's we attack our, like, it's crazy because we get mad at if a white person calls us the N-word or a white person says, oh, this, that, and the third about us, but we can do it to ourselves. You basically saying, oh, well, they let him be president because he's not really 100% black. First of all, now back, if you would take it back to slavery, if you had a hint of black in you, you were called you were called the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter how much percentage you had in you. If you were any portion of, you had maybe 2% black, you was nigger. Like, that's just what you were. It didn't matter. So why does it matter that our president is not all the way black? Because his mom, it's his mom that's white, right?
Yeah, his dad is African. Well, from Africa. I forget
but that was the thing. Well, he's not fully black, so he don't really count as a black president. No, he's black. I don't know how black you can, I mean, like, what do you want? Because realistically speaking, none of our DNA is going to show that we're 100% black. Like, we've been mixed in throughout since slavery. So unless you going all the way to Africa from back over there, that's probably the best chance you're going to be able to get to find a 100% black person. But even then, like I said, the races is so mixed, you never know.
Yeah.
But like I'm sorry, that's like us attacking ourselves again. But we want other people to respect us and not belittle us and make us feel thing. And like you said, even with the first lady, you're attacking the whole line of women that didn't have, like, you know, like that's what they were. They were born white. Like, so what? Like, I mean, you can
it's saying like it can't be racist. Beautiful black white woman. Like, that's how I took it. Like, okay, you know what I mean? You're basically saying all white women are ugly. They're getting old. They get old fast. This, that, and the third. You know what I mean? To me, that's racist.
Yeah.
Because you're putting yourself as superior to them in a certain way. You know what I mean? So, like, I couldn't respect that. Because, you know what I mean? Like, I can understand you being proud of your race. Like, I don't have no gripes with anybody being proud of their racial background, whether you're white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. You should be proud of your background. That doesn't mean that you have to demean another race in the same hand. You know what I mean? But that's what that meme did. What did to me? It seemed to do to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It seemed like it you want to lift us up, but knock a whole other race down. Like, you know what I mean? There's no need for that.
It's a cycle.
Then,
like that's what happens. You gotta, whether it's different races or females against females or males against males, you gotta. You have to tear somebody down to make yourself look better.
Yeah.
And that's what happens, and that's how you create ignorance and racism. I think that means that you can be proud of who you are, but not tear other people down. And that's what's happened throughout the years. That's what happened with the black people, against white people made black people feel less than. Then you got people like Hitler making the Jews feel less than. Like you got the issue with the gypsies. Then you can take it from different races, and different people suffered different things, and because somebody felt like they were superior.
Exactly.
It's like a tear down to make you. If you got to tear somebody down to make yourself feel superior to others, then you're just as weak as everybody else. You're just the weak one.
Exactly.
Like you're not strong. You're weak. You're not confident. You have issues with self-esteem because you don't have to tear somebody down to make yourself look good or be better.
I think as a race, as a black race, has a self-esteem issue within itself.
We do.
You know what I mean? You know, like we always hear light skin first, dark skin, this, that, and the third. I think, you know, we've been beaten as a race. We've been taught to look down on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we judge ourselves more harshly than any other race, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like white people make fun of themselves. You know what I mean? And one thing I noticed with them is they understand that all of them are not going to think alike. And I think that's one issue in the black community that we need to fix as well. Now we're all not going to think alike. You know what I mean? Like we may have similar backgrounds, our culture may be similar, but we're not all alike. You know what I mean? We're not all alike. We don't all move in unison. You know what I mean? Once we accept that, and we never did. You go back to the civil rights movement. It was a reason why, Malcolm felt some type of way towards Martin. You know what I mean? It was a reason why you had the Black Panthers. They all came from different angles. They all have different ideologies of how black people should move and operate within America.
Different ways, and like they conflicted because you had back in the day the Muslim nation and people like Martin Luther King saying that Martin Luther King people decided to fight peacefully and they were weak. And you had people like the Black Panther Party and the Muslims who felt like the only way we're going to get something hurt is to act through violence. And I just it's crazy because you don't like when you look at the history of black people and you see how people did things, there was always one step to change. Whether it was the Underground Railroad, you could start from there up until current. Everything, it takes a little step, and everybody's step is always different. Like we got progress. I mean, if you look at it like from a standpoint, the Muslim people and the Black Panthers made a statement, but then they put a target on their back. Even Martin Luther King, he did peaceful rallies and civil rights demonstrations, and he still had a target on his back. So it's like either way they did it, it was a target on their back. They would have been better as to come together and fight it together, because if you got, it's basically like too many cooks in the kitchen. You got too many different ways. When you all come together on one accord, it makes a better, a powerful statement. No matter what, like you see with things like that with the Million Man March.
My thought process is, I understand what you're saying by it's too many cooks in the kitchen. My thought process is it's different kitchens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's different kitchens, it's different fights, it's different fronts. Like I believe everyone was necessary. You know what I mean? Everyone would. Martin Luther King may be the most celebrated because he preached peace And, they want peace. They don't want us all riled up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They don't want us out here, standing on the courthouse steps with our guns like, this is legal, we here. They don't want that. But showing them that, because, if people don't know the Black Panthers, they think they were just some, rowdy bunch of Negroes.
Yeah, they did a whole lot.
These dudes was college educated, you know what I mean?
And they was providing so much for their community. Like, they was
community.
doing more for their community.
You know what I mean? And, like, they destroyed them from within. You know what I mean? They destroyed them from within. And that's where...
Willie, are you still there? Willie?
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm just listening to this conversation. It's a good conversation. You guys are hitting all the points, and I definitely agree with pretty much everything y'all saying on this one. This is on point right here. I only thing I was going to add was about the just about the whole fact of the systemic racism that causes us to be racist against ourselves and to look down on ourselves. Somebody mentioned earlier, and I just wanted to kind of stress that point about how we judge our own race at a different level than we judge others, and we always feel like we have to do better, and the people around us have to do better than the other races, so we don't look bad, right? We don't want our boy to come work with us because he might make me look bad, you know what I mean, at work, if I work with people of other races, I was talking to somebody one day about, what do you do when a friend asks you, do they got openings at your job, and you're like, my thing was I was getting it from people who wouldn't be qualified to work in my industry, you know what I mean, but just because they like computers, they think that they can work a computer job, and it's like, but then they took it from the perspective of, my friends, they ghetto, so I wouldn't want them working here either. And I'm like, no, it's not that, I'm like, I'm ghetto too when I'm at home, I have no problem fitting in where getting in where I fit in, you know what I'm saying? So that's not my problem. My problem was, I hate to be, shooting everybody down because I just know that they have the same qualifications. But that's the thing. Some people feel like we have to set a standard for Black people when we're around white people. You know what I mean? So I know I work hard only because my dad raised me to work hard. But some people feel like they got to work harder than white people just because they got to make it look good for the Black people. It's great that they do that. They feel that way because some people don't take that stance. Some people feel like they can act a fool because they're the Black person at work, and you see that happening too. You know what I mean? You
I don't want you don't want to be that Black person acting crazy.
Exactly. They gotta show their ghetto side because they the only Black person and all that kind of stuff. I've heard it from that perspective, and it's sad on both parts because we don't have we can be different without having to be different, right? You know what I mean? We just be yourself. That's what I look at it as. Be yourself. Be who you are, where you are, when you are. Don't try to put on a show for somebody just because you either want to stand out or you want to shut down and stand in. So you just gotta be yourself.
Okay, now I have a question because I've had this question pop up on several Facebooks, Twitters, and everything else, and I'm gonna give my personal view on it, and I want you guys to chime in because with Black-owned businesses, how they say you don't support Black businesses, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. Like, I get a lot of people who say that, and, like, what's the problem with supporting the Black business in your community? And I know from my community, a lot of the Black-owned businesses, not a lot, some, I'm going to say some because I don't want to be that person, but with some of the businesses, I know in my area, I work in downtown Trenton because I work for the state. But when I go, like, say if I want to go to a Black-owned business and order food. If I call, I'm not getting anyone. When I show up, I'm on my lunch hour, or I'm trying to leave a couple minutes before my lunch hour to order my food. They're like some businesses open late at 11 for some, so you get there on your lunch break is maybe 12 to 2, or 12 anytime between that time frame. And I leave work at 12, and I'm going to their business. They're not open. They're just opening up. They're not prepared. I got to wait almost an hour for my food, so I'm going to be late getting back to work. And if people say, okay, how come you don't do Black-owned business? No, I'll do them if they're professional and if they're prepared, because if you're going to open at 11 o'clock for people to come in, you should be opening early to start prepping food so that way when people come to order, they have something in the works of getting, instead of sitting there for a whole hour and a half waiting for stuff. Now, some black-owned businesses I do have no problem with. I patronize. I go and buy stuff. I participate. I help out and things of that nature. But you get some of the businesses that, they're closed on some random day of the week, like on a Wednesday, and they open at 11 every day, and then they close at random times, and it's just like, at what point do you stop trying to patronize that business, and then you're getting told, oh, well, you don't do this, and no, I tried to, and this is what happened. So how do you guys feel?
All right.
I
don't want to step on nobody's toes real quick. I'm kind of passionate about this one, just because I ran a black-owned business, right? So, the thing is that, and what I've learned in my life, because I've been that person that said, I don't go to black businesses because blase split, right? Because of those same things you mentioned. But what I did figure out, especially when I opened my business and when I started looking at other professionally ran black-owned businesses, is that we're not all the same, right? Mm-hmm. So I stopped generalizing. And I think that's what helps, is if you don't generalize the situation, if you don't generalize the statement, I think it makes it easier for you to try other places or be more open, but also it removes the perception that you're being exclusionary to everybody just because they fit a profile, right? So, people would say, hey, why don't you support, black-owned business? Maybe because you're saying I don't support black-owned businesses, or I don't go to black businesses because of this is happening to me. If that's not the case, if it's just a perception, I mean, it's not really you can do about the perception. But if that's the stance you have taken, and that's the reason they're saying that, then that just change the way you state it, because like you said, you're not excluding everybody. It's just that there's a vast majority that you've dealt with that you don't deal with anymore, right? So what I started doing, I looked at it from the perspective of, I don't go to this particular restaurant because they did this to me. Everybody can understand that at that point. If you say that particular restaurant, now if I just blanket every business that's in the restaurant business that's black-owned, then I'm exclusionary. I'm being too critical of an entire genre of businesses that one doesn't have anything to do with the other. In Detroit, there's a large number of black-owned, and then there's a large number of Arab-owned businesses all around us. And if you say you don't go to a black-owned business, I mean there's not a lot as it is, but to exclude all of them because one did you wrong, it's kind of, it's that's showing some prejudice on your part, but also you're not being open-minded enough to deal with the fact that one business did you wrong, not an entire race of people. So, and that's what prejudice people do. They look at it as, I've taken, the time to do this one thing with this one person because this one person did wrong. We need to just forget all of them. They all need to fail because this one person did me wrong. So now all of them need to go. That's just wrong. So we should deal with everybody. We should deal with everybody on their terms. And like you say, if they don't do right, exclude them, not the entire block. Don't so.
Yes, Jabril, you guys want to comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like Willie was saying, you can't group all of them in the same category. But then again, you have to sit and think like these black-owned businesses want support in the communities, but they're not really doing everything they can to get the full support. You say. These people are opening up on weird hours. They, especially in the area that you're in, especially being in downtown Trenton, you have people who are coming in on a lunch break. You're going to get that lunch rush. Why not get there a little bit earlier and have things ready and prepared, or being closed on random days. I understand things like that. That boggles my mind how that happens sometimes. I used to go to this soul food restaurant out here by my house. And, you get there in the middle of the week on a regular day at a regular time, and they don't have things. You go order a meal with two sides. You're like, all right, let me get the macaroni and cheese and the collard. Oh, we don't have no more macaroni and cheese. Dude, it's Tuesday. How you run out of macaroni and cheese already? Like, just like things like that. And then you wonder why these people don't want to go and support these businesses because they're not really out here giving their full 100%. This is what you're known for. You're a soul food restaurant. Is what you're based on. This is all you do. You should be able to know how to do inventory and how to order things for the week and things like that. Don't open up on a day. People are coming here for your pies and you don't have the stuff to make a pie. You don't have stuff to do what you're supposed to be doing during the week. It's just wasted time, and that's how you lose business.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody in here is saying, okay, we can't support these black-owned businesses because they're not living up to what they're supposed to be.
That's what I'm like. I'm one of the people that like to support. Like this one place I've always wanted to try. Every time I call or show up, they either close or nothing, or like I have to wait hours, and it's like by then, you gotta get back to work. You can't sit there for an hour and a half. Like that's not something I could do on my lunch hour. I have a lunch hour. It's not hour and a half, or I have to use my time. Like I try to call ahead and so I show up a little early and I'm waiting an hour and a half, and it's like at that point I stopped going to that business because I'm like, okay, now I can't go to this one because their food is good, but like now I'm just faced with either I'm going to be late back to work and I'm going to get in trouble. Like how many times can you be late before your supervisor open up her mouth and say something to you? And then, like I said, and then you got to deal with walking in with somebody behind the counter has an attitude for no reason. You're like, hello, yeah, and it's like, okay, never mind. I don't want anything.
I think personally, it's layers to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's layers to it because, like back to what Brother Willie was saying, I think a lot of it just based off stereotype. First, I think a lot of black business are stereotypes. So, you know what I mean? And then we judge. It goes back to we judging our own on a different level. You know what I mean? Because I've been in plenty other establishments, you know what I mean, that weren't black owned where I had the same issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not. It comes down to not just being a black-owned business problem, but just like people, it's a business problem. People don't know how to run a business. They're looking for a come-up, but they don't know how to run a business, so it fails. Yeah. And as far as, like, supporting, I always support, you know what I mean, black-owned. But like you said, if I know that you're not running it properly, well, then I'm not going to come back. I'm not about to just give you my money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to take my money away in hopes that you improve.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Because I done took my money away, spending it somewhere else. That's to let you know you need to improve. So once you improve, I'll come back and check. But if I'm still dealing with the same nonsense, I'm not going to come back. That's across the board, whether you're black, you're going to the Poppy's bodega. I have to go in there all the time. I have to tell Poppy, like, Poppy, you talking too much. You know what I mean? Fix my food. You know what I mean? Or I'm at the cash register. You know what I mean? He playing on the computer trying to get the music in the store right. I'm like, Pop, you know what I mean? Let me pay for this so I can get up out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I have issues where they too busy talking and flirting with the girl, with another person. They done better put ketchup on my burger. I'm like, I just told you. You said ketchup. I said no. You said ketchup. I said no ketchup. Ketchup, no ketchup. And you still put ketchup on my stuff because you said talking this heifer. So now I'm not like. Stuff like that, like, and it's like you said, it's not just with black-owned businesses. It's with all businesses. If I feel like I called a Chinese restaurant one time and ordered Chinese food, and the lady but that's in their nature. They rush off the phone and get you off the phone, and it's like, wait a minute, I need to make sure you got my food right.
Yeah.
And then when I call you back, you got an attitude. Okay, well, cancel that order. I'm gonna call another place because I don't have time for that. Like, I need to make sure that my food is gonna come here. If I'm paying for it, I need to make sure my food is right. And that's with any place. That's with not just food. That's with any business I go to. I remember a year or two I had a problem with a sneaker store. It goes across the board, you know.
Okay, so I was about to. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say one quick thing. Also, you know what I mean, sometimes the businesses, you know what I mean, black-owned business don't want our patronism anyway. They don't want to be patronized by us anyway because, like I said, it's layers. Because you get some people, they see a black-owned business, they were trying to get over. You know what I mean? They trying to go in there, they trying to get deals. You know what I mean? Oh, that's my peoples. He gonna look me out. He gonna hook me up. You know what I mean? They ain't trying to spend all their money, but they don't do that with other establishments. You feel me? Like they'll judge a black-owned business so harshly, but then you going in there looking for deals. You're trying to get deals, but you don't treat any other establishment that way. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? As far as black-owned business, I can see how they can feel some type of way towards the patron as well. My bad, Willie.
No, that's true. That's true. Go ahead, Willie.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I definitely that's a good point. What I was going to mention though is kind of back to what Sonny was talking about in terms of dealing with other businesses, and it's funny to me because when she mentioned the Chinese food restaurant, and I guarantee you got the same issue everywhere. I mean, I've dealt with it here in Detroit. I dealt with it in the suburbs. I dealt with it down south. It's crazy, but that's how it is. But I've never heard anybody say, I don't go to Chinese food restaurants because they all rush me off the phone or they all treat you like they in a hurry, that kind of thing. I've never heard, you know what I mean? But we do that to the black-owned businesses. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of weird to me that we singled out this one particular race of businesses, you know what I mean, when it comes to service, in general.
I hung up and I didn't call them back. Like I hung up.
No.
And called someone else.
I'm saying, but have you ever said that I won't never go to another Chinese food restaurant ever because you know what I mean? You don't hear people say that. You know what I'm saying?
I've never said that. I've never said that. But I've never said I would never go to a black-owned business. Like I order online from several black businesses, and they're I've had great experiences there. It's just that I know where I work at in downtown Trenton, there is quite a few black-owned businesses that I've patronized, and one in particular, we had a issue, we had discussion on Facebook about it. They were like, well, you don't, and I said no because I've had several problems. Like I don't go there. I've tried going there.
Right.
I've worked there several times. I have several bad experiences, and it's like, how many times I got to call the business for their phone to be cut off? Like, what are you not doing? Not paying your bills? For one, I show up, I'm getting an attitude behind the person behind the counter. If I'm asking like a general question, like, oh, how much is this? Oh, well, just with an attitude, and then waiting an hour and a half for food. It's like I don't have time for that. So therefore, no, I'm not going to go to that. But like I said, I'm one of the people that if no matter who owns the business, no matter what race, creed, whatever, religion, if you give me bad business, I'm not coming back to you, and that's point blank in the period. Like, I tried it. I don't care if you get better. I'm not going back because from that point on, you have rubbed me the wrong way, and you gave me bad business. So why would I spend my money in a place that's like that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I've defended plenty of black businesses. I was a part of Pop Warner, Trenton Pop Warner. It's the guy that runs it is African American. He's played every sport you can think of, and he runs that coordination. Now, I have friends saying, oh, well, I want to sign my kid up for cheerleading. I'm like, yeah, we Pop Warner, is half of all the coaches are all black. Like, you got black cheerleading coaches, black football coaches, every level of age. And then I got people saying, oh, I don't want to go there. I'd rather go out Princeton where such and such is and blah, blah, blah. But when we had parents come to us, you got them cussing us out, getting mad at us, not trying to pay fees, trying to figure out how to way to pay it. But if you go out in Princeton or Hamilton and they tell you a fee, I can guarantee you're going to pay it. I can guarantee you'll give it to them without an attitude.
Of course, look where you at.
When your child acts up and that coach corrects them, you won't be jumping in their face trying to fight them. Like,
look where you at.
That's what I said. I've experienced it, so I understand it. And I'm not.
See, but I disagree with that. I disagree with that because, my little brothers grew up in Pop Warner. They from Trenton, but they played Pop Warner out in Hamilton. And the same chaos and disrespect that one might see in Trenton, I've seen in Hamilton as well. Also got godsons who play, football Pop Warner out in Bordentown. You know what I mean? And their dad, that's like my brother. He coaches the team. He'll tell you. White parents do it just the same. They
do. They do.
It's just that, we the people we deal with the most, it's probably of our own hue. So we tend to judge like that. They don't do this out somewhere else like they do it here, but they do. They just do it different. They don't put all their problems out there, all their issues out there, so everybody can see. And judge. Yeah. But it does happen.
Experiences. I'm just like,
okay. Like I've seen parents You know what I mean? White parents start cussing out the refs and get kicked off the field, can't get suspended, kids getting suspended, all types of stuff. You know what I mean? I've seen parents tell their kids to hurt the other kids, you know what I mean? And these are the black people I'm talking about. So like, that's why I say, like, we're more critical of ourselves, and we expect the worst from us, when it's not really like that. These issues aren't just racial issues. These are human issues. These are societal issues. You know what I mean? It's a problem with society to where you're at a football game and your kid's out there to have fun. You know what I mean? But you're acting a fool as a parent. Like, we're not setting good examples across the board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't think that's just a black thing. I think that's a society. That's all races. I see it. All races.
I see it out here too. I mean, I live in an area that's predominantly white, and you know, the football league that my kids are in, our team is predominantly black, but the rest of the league, I mean, it's probably, I think it's 12 teams. There's probably only two or three black teams. The rest are all white, and their parents. I mean, literally, we walked into a stadium one day, and their team announcement or their stadium announcement pretty much said that anybody acting up because of the last game they had where the home parents were acting a fool. And I'm looking at these parents like all of them were white. The way they were acting a fool, that they had to suspend the game, and the team forfeited the game because of the way the parents are acting. And, you know, so it's not us only. It's everybody.
It's not. But if it was us acting like that, it will be taken to a whole nother, like, not even that, like, media wise. Okay, so you see on the media, you see some of these people, parents fighting and arguing, coaches knocking them out, having a daggone brawl. Now these are all white people or people of white descent, whatever. They're out there fighting, acting the fool. Now they're all crazy. They went crazy and this and the third. Let that be black people over there fighting in the field, and somebody catch on a bit and they go on NBC, CBS. It's gonna be a bunch of hoodlums.
But see, then it also goes down to a numbers game. You know what I mean? It goes down, you know what I mean? That's a key element in here, too, is a numbers game. It's not that many black people in America compared to, you know what I mean? We're not even the number one minority no more.
No.
You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, when we talk about black America, it's really not that many of us. That's why sometimes, you know what I mean, people lump us all together, even though it's a lot of differences. But when it comes to a numbers game, when something happened like that, now say you got, I'm just use rough numbers, you got 1 million black folk, but you got 6 million white people. You know what I mean? Now 3 million of those white people act just like 500,000 of those black people. Now that's half and half, right? But you got a whole other 3 million looking at like, those black people is crazy. Half of them is just crazy. But it ain't that many of us. So they looking at it like all of them. You know what I mean? All of them is crazy. It comes down to, we can't say that about them because there's so many more of them than us. That's why they all, you know what I mean, if you pay attention to them, they all don't think alike. You know what I mean? Like, to use the football analogy, like I said, Trenton people, they look at Hamilton, because Hamilton, it used to be a part of Trenton, but it annexed itself and it's bigger than Trenton. And people, you know what I mean, in Hamilton, people tend to have more money. So, you know what I mean, like they'll look down on Trenton, which is predominantly black now and Hispanic, and we don't have that much money within the city. But you take them somewhere with that same Hamilton team, where everybody at Trenton be like, you know what I mean, they look down on us. You take that same Hamilton team and you go to somewhere like New Egypt or Robbinsville or something like that, where those townships or people in those cities are even wealthier than Hamilton. Now, the same way we feel when we're around all those white people feel the same way against their own kind. But, you know what I mean, it's like oh man, I can't think of the word right now. You know what I mean? It's like I want to say levels, but not, y'all know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's you know how you have the kings, then you have the people who work
the classes
in the kingdom, and then you have the peasants and all that. So it's like a system. It's like kind of system is that, man?
The class
Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like a placement system.
Yeah.
It's like a placement system. Like, you know your place.
It's like the
you feel
right.
Yeah, it's like you know your place. So when they across that field, classism. That's the thank you, brother. Thank you for saving. You know, that's the exact word I was looking for. Classism. So when they're at that football game and the people from Hamilton, they're looking at the people from Robbinsville, they looking like, man, they're in the upper class than us. You feel me? And that's the same way we feel when we're around them. Now, I mean, it works both ways. They're looking down, but also we're looking up because we feel inferior, not maybe individually, but as a whole. As a community, especially in my city, most people feel inferior. Now, I mean, man, black people, for the most part in America, they feel inferior. They won't admit it. You know what I mean? You know, you try to be back.
Yeah, I mean,
but for the most part,
you can hear it in the statements they make when they say stuff like they should know better. If you see a rich person acting a certain way, you go, oh, they should know better. Or you see a person with an education, like they should know better. You know, you don't say it like, oh, you know, that's just boys being boys, girls being girls. It's, oh, they should know better.
Exactly. Now, I mean, that's why I say it's so many levels and layers to it. Like, it get deep. Like, it really get deep.
Okay, now I have another question. It's going back to the light skin versus dark. We were talking about that. I want to bring up the topic of the Willie Lynch letter. Like, do you think that still affects today within the black community? Like, does that cause a rift in the black community today? Anyone?
You mean the concept of the systemic,
Willie,
like, you know,
of the old against young, the light against dark.
Yeah, it's still obvious. You know, there's that still hasn't gone away. We still have people who will say you're pretty for a dark skinned girl, or we'll have people that say you have nice hair because it's long and wavy versus short and curly, you know, or nappy, as you want to say. You will still have people who make comments based on your upbringing versus who you are. You know what I mean? It's still a system of things that are in place to make us either look inferior, feel inferior, or be inferior. You know, when it comes to, you know, like somebody mentioned earlier about if a fight breaks out, I think Sonny, you mentioned this. If a fight breaks out and it's a bunch of white folks, it's just going to be, they're going to deal with it right there. They might call the police, but they're going to deal with it right there. Let some black folks do it in that white neighborhood. It's going to be on the news, you know, because that's big news to make us continue to look bad. You know what I mean? The news does it for ratings, but the total system itself does it to make us look bad, you know. So I think that overall, the whole concept, I mean, I personally don't believe that there was actually a system developed in such a way that somebody wrote a letter and said, let's do this, and that's how it happened. Some people actually believe that's true. I don't believe it. I think it's kind of dumb to believe in that. But I think that overall, the way it's come down, it's evolved over time. And somebody said, let's do this, and it worked, and they did it. Somebody else said, let's do that, and it worked, and they did it. You know, I mean, think about it when they say, when they say Edison created the light bulb. I work for GE. They say Edison created the light bulb. Edison didn't create a light bulb. He didn't make the only light bulb that there was. Edison created a team of people who developed a certain type of light bulb that just happened to work. They all had ideas. They all had different ways of doing things. They all had a part or a piece in it, right? There was a black man, Lewis Latimer, who actually created the patent for it and defended this light bulb design, and because it was a little more superior than somebody else's, I believe it was Tesla's. So there was other light bulbs out there. It's just he got the credit because he made the best one at the time after everybody debated on it. And even then, they said there was still a debate when it came down to it. So Edison wasn't the only one you could buy a light bulb from. But it's all about how did you develop this over time. And, you know, I think the whole system itself is built on, you know, keeping somebody rich and somebody looking, you know, more superior than somebody else. And it just happens to be us because we're eternally the fall guy right now. You know, from slavery all the way down to now, we've fell into the whole I'm trying to think of the word to say, but we've fallen into that place of being ghetto or being inferior or being whatever, poor or whatever the case may be. There's plenty of rich black folks out there. There's plenty of classy black folks out there. But when people think of the word ghetto, the first thing they think is black folks. When you think of the word poor, first thing you think of is black folks. They're like I think Jabril mentioned it. I mean, we only got 13% of the population or 14% of the population. Why is the first race you think of when you say inner city, is the first thing you think of is black, or when you say disenfranchised, the first thing you think of is black. There's different disenfranchised white folks out here. I live around them, so it's not we don't have this whole thing on lock. I promise you that. They didn't create the welfare system to help black people. They did not. The freeing of the slaves, that had nothing to do with black people. That had something to do with winning a war, and it had something to do with making sure that the South failed. It had nothing to do with helping black people. I promise you that. So there's a lot of things that have been put in place to keep us down, and it continues to be kept in place to continue to keep us down, mainly because they don't want to see us great. To quote DJ Khaled, they don't want to see us where we want to be. So it's here. It's going to be here until we break through it. You know what I mean? As a people, not individually, because a lot of us individually have done it. I mean, I look at myself. I look at people around me that I work with. I mean, I work with, I would say, several hundred minorities at my site that are, coming from a background that has included drugs and alcohol and being in the ghetto, in their families. I'm talking about in their families, but they came out of those situations and succeeded in life. Not everybody's been left behind to wallow in poverty. We've a lot of us have come out of that, but as a people, we still see people still falling into that trap. So I think it's that Willie Lynch syndrome is still there. We still have that looming, but it's up to everybody to kind of come out of that and to realize we don't have to be the people that are kept down. We don't.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm
no. I mean, I was. It's funny that she brought up the Willie Lynch letter, and it was just recently, within like the last month or so, that I've been seeing a lot of things on Facebook speaking on this Willie Lynch letter, and it comes up. It always comes up every couple of years. It comes up on the media, and people are debating the facts, the whether it's real, whether it's fake, and I read about it. I've heard about it. I've been following it for a while, and I really, I mean, as far as the Willie Lynch letter goes, I have no real opinion on that. But I mean, the things that are in there, whether it's real or not, the things that are in there are definitely something that needs to be addressed. In my opinion, that's just how I see it.
Yeah, I believe so too. With me, I think it just starts with us. Our mindset, I think we have a negative mindset. We celebrate the negative too much in our community. We always talk about how black fathers aren't around. We're always talking about, how women are loud mouths and this, that, and the third. We don't never celebrate the positive. So, and I think that's one of the things that they talk about in the Willie Lynch letter is like mind control. Basically what they did was just mentally break us down. So we really don't celebrate the positive enough in our community. Because, I always hear people talking about fathers not around, and I have friends who never seen their father, don't know who their father is, or their father was in and out. But I have quite a few and a lot of friends whose fathers was there. All the time. You feel me? As soon as they call, they come. But that doesn't get talked about. All I hear about is, black men don't take care of their kids, this, that, and the third, when that's not always the case. You know what I mean? And I know the females always hear, you know what I mean, black women loud, they disrespectful, they don't want to listen, they always combative. That's not true. You know what I mean? And furthermore, you know what I mean, that's more of a female sexism thing, because, you know what I mean, you get loudmouth females in all races, you know what I mean? But for some reason, it's always highlighted in the black community. You know what I mean? Like, black women got this negative connotation towards them. You know what I mean? And one of the things the Willie Lynch letter stresses is like mind control, mental like control. And I think that's what has happened over time. You know what I mean? They controlled us, you know what I mean, to think a certain way that has a lot to do with the media as far as our what we see. You know what I mean? All we see is negative things on the news, videos. You just see dudes acting full, females just shaking their butt all around. You know what I mean? Or everything negative. But when white people do it, it's celebrated. You see what I'm saying? Like, you think about like the twerking thing. You know what I mean? White people done turned that to an exercise. Even though you got black people, black women out there who have turned it to an exercise as well. But white women done turned that to an exercise as a positive thing. But when we see a black female out there twerking, she a hoe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? She this, that, and the third. You feel me? But like I said, we don't celebrate us enough in a positive light. You know what I mean? And then when we do criticize each other, it gotta be done with love, with compassion. You know what I mean? It's like we don't have no compassion for each other. You know what I mean? That's why a young boy can walk right out of his house, see another dude walking down the street, and just shoot him in cold blood because he don't have no compassion for him. He wasn't taught compassion.
Clint, we got another caller. Hold on.
Okay.
Caller, you on the air. What's your name and where you from?
Hey, guys. It's me calling in.
What's up?
What's going on,
How are you guys? Good show.
Good
show.
How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to call in and I do. First, to piggyback off what Clint was just saying, I think the realm of it all is just that from the beginning of time, you know, blacks have been controlled. And the minute we were freed from slavery and women such as ourselves who had never experienced slavery knew nothing about keeping their mouth shut and not being able to, you know, we don't know how to feel inferior to somebody. So the worst thing they did, and I don't mean this in a negative way, for them, the worst thing they ever did was free those blacks, because now we can't control them. Now they mouthing off. Now they think they better than us, so they think they equal to us. But the thing is, I mean, I just personally don't ever see, as sad as it is, I don't see in our lifetime where things are going to change as far as race. It is something that we have been dealing with for years. I think it's something we're going to be dealing with for years, and that's why it's important that the generation coming behind us, that they're preparing ourselves for a war they know nothing about, but that they should be able to stand up for it. And that's going to be that they are held to equal standard. When it'll happen, who knows? But I just don't think we'll see in our lifetime, sadly enough. As far as the sports goes, I mean, I think the hypocrisy of race discourse in the U.S., period, is breathtaking. I remember in, I believe, 2014 when we had what I call the NBA master, Donald Sterling, and all his nonsense. Now, we were then supposed to just pretend that his views on social undesirability of associating with black people was something that just emerged from his sick imagination and not a sentiment shared in just, you know, polite white society. Like, it just all of a sudden came out of nowhere, and that wasn't his true feelings. And, of course, it was. But what that really revealed was the superficiality and the dishonesty of the supposed outrage about racism in our society and also in sports. And I think overall the complete cognitive dissociation between the outrage against black people and the degrading assault in sports across the board. I mean, you talk about before when it was, black men, they're only good to play basketball. How dare you start thinking about playing in baseball? Or the movie that they have coming out soon with Jesse Owens, when they did the last movie, the last movie with, his name, I'm throwing it, Jackie Robinson.
My Will Smith.
These things were unheard. I'm sorry?
No, I was wondering what movie you was talking about. My bad.
Oh, yeah. It's just, these things, they've been around for years, and again, this is another thing. I mean, is that ever going to change? Who knows? I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, it's one thing when we do something, it's a problem. How dare you? Somebody else does it. Oh, well, he's just showing good sportsmanship. Well, why is it not the same when I do it? I mean, you dabbing. They don't dab. They hit a two-step, that's it. Maybe because we do it a little longer. Is that the problem?
It's funny that you bring that up.
When Tim Tebow was down here doing his little his praise and giving thanks to God or whatever, that was a problem. I mean, it's just there's always something to complain about when these people are celebrating as if, you can do this, but don't do it too much. Let's get back to the game, as if they've really done something wrong. But it is an issue when blacks do it, and not so much when whites do it. But is that ever going to change?
Of course not. I'm sitting here listening to her talk, but I have the TV on. I'm watching Trevor Noah. He does a show on Comedy Central, and he's actually talking about the quarterback issue. And one of the skits that he just did, he was talking about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers does the discount double check, the thing with the bells around his waist, and nobody has an issue with that. But Cam Newton's out here dabbing, and they have an issue with that. They're both quarterbacks. They're both big names in the game. They're both celebrating things. Nobody has a problem with Aaron Rodgers doing a discount double check, but they have a problem with Cam Newton dabbing. And it's a double standard right there. The
discount double check is in the contract, though. They could do that. The dab ain't in the contract. Can't do that. It's not right. No new dances can appear
before you can do it.
If it was a dance that came out in 2014 to now, it's not allowed on the field. It's new. It has to be put in front of a board. It has to be voted on. These people sitting on the board need to know how to do it. They need to know where it derived from. It's ridiculous.
Well, why? So he's better off doing.
Yeah, I was going to mention
whip
that earlier. That I think it was because it was too new. It was something that they felt like it was. They thought it was a gang thing, or they thought it was something that was derogatory. Mm-hmm. But I think it was just because it was something new, something they hadn't seen. I mean, that double check thing, that's been done for I think 10 years, over 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so they're used to it now. It's something that they kind of accepted at this point. But I remember when I first saw it on a sports thing, I remember they had a problem with it. I believe somebody got fined for it years ago. So it wasn't. I don't think it was a black person. It was a white guy that did it, and he got fined for it. So in a way, it is kind of just a matter of they felt it was something that they weren't familiar with. But it makes it worse when it's us that's doing it. It makes it a little worse.
But
Let me ask y'all something though.
Is it a cultural thing? A lot of these dances do derive from songs that are about gangs, women, drugs. So they may also be associated with that. Like that, these dances are coming from songs that have negative connotations, so you can't put that on the field. That kind of thing.
Let me ask you something,
I'm just saying, you got to consider that.
Let me ask you something. Is it a cultural thing, more so a race thing? Because I want to ask Jabril this. Because who the guy that just got cut? Johnny Manziel, white guy, quarterback. You know what I mean? He's more so. He's not your typical white guy like a Peyton Manning or something like that. He's more into the hip hop culture. So is it necessarily a black thing or a cultural thing?
I would say it's more of a cultural thing. because of the fact that you have other athletes out here, whether they're black, white, whatever, who can do things out here celebrating and things like that and not have an issue with it. Like you said, I mean, Johnny Manziel, of course, yeah, he's into the hip hop culture and things like that. He's not as big and mainstream. He doesn't have the following that the Cam Newton has. Like, Cam Newton is very popular among these kids because of how young he is and because of his playing style, and these kids look up to him, not because he's black, because he's into the culture right now, and he's one to look up to. I mean, you had, think of it like this, back in the day in the 90s when you had, what's the dude name, the dude from Atlanta out here doing the Dirty Bird, everybody wanted to do the Dirty Bird. Yeah, Jamal Anderson. Everybody wanted to do the Dirty Bird. It wasn't because he was black, it was because of a cultural thing. It was fly to do it back in the day, back then, and everybody wanted to do it. Not because, you got some black dude out here dancing on the field, because that's the dance right now. Like that's the cultural thing. That's what's happening right now. That's what you had. You had Deion Sanders out here prime timing, hopping around, fake crip walking on the field. He was doing his little dance. It wasn't because he was black. It was because that dance is hot right there. I want to do that. And then you got people doing it now. I see it as a cultural thing. Me personally, I see it as a cultural thing.
I agree. I think race has little to do with it, and when we talk about Cam, I think it has a lot to do with the cultural thing. I think the old culture isn't as popular now. You know what I mean? Like, the old guard is fading, and there's a new, you know what I mean? There's a new culture within that system that's becoming prominent now. And I think the old guard has an issue with that. You know what I mean? And so it's a little tug of war going on right now.
Yeah, look at it. Look at the quarterbacks you had back in the day. You never saw Troy Aikman out here celebrating, dancing around the field after he scored a touchdown. John Elway, Steve Young, Joe Montana. They weren't out there dabbing. Well, they didn't have that back then, but you ain't see them out there cabbage patching on the field when they scored a touchdown.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that goes to standards too, right? That goes to perceptions, and the perception was that they were leaders on the field, and they had to live up to a certain perception, and if they didn't do things a certain way, they weren't the All-American boy, they didn't have the All-American look, they had to have their hair a certain way, they had to, because what was his name, the old guy that was on there last year with the crazy looking fur coat, and they talked about him, as a white guy, they talked about him because he was flamboyant as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, not
Joe Namath.
Or Joe Namath.
Joe
Namath. Yeah, and they talked about him when he was younger, because he was young, he was flamboyant, he was out there, he did what he wanted to, and that's the thing. The old standard is you don't do what you want to do, you do what we say to do, So I think some of that has to do with the classism again, because rich folks want rich folks to act a certain way, They want their All-American boys to. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I had said earlier, these people are entertainers. They're getting paid millions of dollars to entertain these fans, to entertain these people, to have these kids look up to them. I see it as, if you're getting paid millions of dollars and that's what your job is, you should be able to celebrate and do whatever you want to. That's what you're getting paid for. Yes, you're representing the company, the NFL, and all these other companies, but you're still a person. You're out here to entertain these people and keep them wanting to come back and do more and see more. That's your job. That's what you're getting paid to do. They shouldn't limit you, and now they're sitting up here trying to characterize you as a thug and all these other things because of what you do on the field.
Well, all he had to do was whip a Nene, and they would have been fine because everybody been doing that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Every race been whipping a Nene or get down low and hit the Quan because people been doing that too. So he should have did either one of those two dances and called it a day. But yeah, it's crazy.
I got one last question. I would like everybody to touch on. Somebody mentioned it earlier. Standards. I believe in our community, the black community, our standards aren't high enough. We're not held to a high standard. You know what I mean? And I think
we aren't, or we are. What?
We are not held.
Okay.
We don't hold ourselves to a high standard. You know what I mean? I go back to, I was talking about how I went to school over there in PA. When I went to school, those kids was no different. Like I said, it was predominantly white than the kids at Trenton High. Like I said, I didn't get suspended for fighting at Trenton High. I got suspended for fighting there. You know what I mean? So it was totally, the kids are, you know what I mean, it's the same stuff going on. The difference was the structure. You know what I mean? Those kids in that community, well, that school in that community held those kids to a higher standard. So it doesn't matter how they act, they still have to meet that standard. You know what I mean? At Trenton High, that standard wasn't there. You know, I remember walking straight out the front door, going to the Chinese store, the Chuck's, get some food, and then walk right back into the building.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That's what I should do.
Yeah, you couldn't do that at Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? That's not happening. You know what I mean? It's they're not going to let you do that. So my question to y'all is basically, do we not hold ourselves to a higher enough standard?
I think it depends on where you are and what you're doing. I mean, when like I said, when I'm at work, or some of the jobs I've worked at, probably not the one I'm at now, but in previous jobs I've been at, you know, the people around me, we held each other at a different standard. You know what I mean? Like a higher standard. Like you have to act a certain way or be a certain way because we got to impress these white folks. You know what I mean? You know, you aren't allowed to act up because you can't make us look bad. You know, that kind of thing. But I've been in situations where, like you said, we don't hold each other to a certain standard. I mean, I lived in a neighborhood at one time where the way I talk, right, the way I speak, and people would say you speak too properly or you talk like a white person. You know, that's holding you to a lower standard, saying, hey, no, stay down here with us. Don't be getting too uppity. You need to be down here. You know, so we're not holding each other to a standard, saying, hey, you know, it's okay to speak properly. It has nothing to do with being white, black, or other. It has something to do with being educated. You know, people do that depending on where they are or what audience they've taken. You know, if I'm around people in a certain neighborhood, I'm going to probably treat them a certain way because we're in that neighborhood versus if we're in a, let's say, a upper class neighborhood or a more affluent neighborhood. I think it just depends on the situation. You know, as a people, do we hold ourselves to a certain standard? Probably not. You know, because we might feel that overall, you know, we can't do certain things, and that's kind of bad. You know, we need to all hold each other accountable to be all that we can be, do all that we can do, and make, you know, our forefathers proud that we are doing, you know, the things they wanted us to do. I mean, Malcolm Martin, Medgar Evers, all those people, they didn't die because they wanted us to be gangsters and thugs and bitches and hoes. They didn't do that. So they didn't die for that. They died for us to be affluent, to be able to integrate or be able to have our own, whatever the case may be. So I just think it depends on who you're talking to and where you're at.
Yeah, I think in some, like Willie said, in some instances we do, and in some instances we don't. But like Willie said, it also depends on the situation that you're in that current moment. But do you guys want to chime in before the show is over?
I agree with what Willie was saying. Definitely, the situation definitely plays a part in whether we're. I'm all confused right now, but I agree with what Willie was saying.
Kenya? Oh.
I mean, you know, I won't confirm nor deny what went down at Trenton High, or if I walked out or in any doors at any time. What I will say
I know I
is
did.
that I would agree that sometimes we don't hold ourselves to a high enough standard, and also that other people don't hold us to a high enough standard. I mean, that kind of stuff, first of all, starts at home. I mean, if you're used to getting away with things, you know, it carries over into other stuff. If you're used to being lazy, that's what you're going to do. If you're used to not fighting for something, you know, that's what you're going to do. I mean, so it has to start somewhere. But we also can't not have ever gotten that guidance at home and then expect people to come out into society and they have it. Because when they don't, how many people are even correcting us? They're not. I mean, it's just, well, you know, I mean, they kids. Let them go ahead and have a good time. Oh, well, listen, if you go to the Chinese store, I'm going to let you back in if you bring me 7 wings and a Pepsi. I mean, sometimes people just looking for a shortcut. So they weren't held to a higher standard. Nobody forced them to hold themselves to a higher standard or to be held accountable. So guess what they're doing? They're now going behind themselves and everybody else, and they're allowing other people to do the exact same thing. Those children are doing the exact same thing. And then some of us, not myself, because I'm holding myself accountable these days, but I could very well have been the kind of person who did exactly what was done to me. Listen, if it's a shortcut, you know, I'm just going ahead and get in where I fit in. As long as I can get something out of it. Then if I can benefit, go ahead and do what you do. And it's too many people doing that. But if that don't start at home, I mean, people not teaching that to themselves. Maybe you're around somebody who might say, listen, you slipping up. Maybe. But if you're not, that's a losing battle right there. I mean, once people set into their characters and their personality and everything, I mean, they're just going to do what they want to do. Unless they see somebody else doing it and they pick up on it and they say, you know what, I want to change that about myself.
Yeah.
Okay, Clint?
I mean, I agree with what everybody was saying. Because I don't think always, you know what I mean, me and my friends always had this conversation. And I feel like we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I'm not comparing us to no other race's standard. I'm talking about ourselves. You know what I mean? Because for the most part, you know, a lot of black, especially young black boys, I can speak for young black boys real quickly. We're forced into sports. You know what I mean? That's what most of us are taught is our ticket out. You know what I mean? Education isn't paramount. You know what I mean? Make sure you fast. Make sure you can knock down that jump shot. Make sure you can hit that baseball. You know what I mean? Those are, when I say raising our standards, that's what I mean. Like, those shouldn't be our only outlets out. We should be raising doctors. We should be raising lawyers. You know what I mean? Nurses, whatever you want to be, that's on the positive and doing and adding to society. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Instead of just, you know what I mean, like sports or entertainment is our only way out. I mean, like, everybody doesn't have to be a rapper. What about being a producer? What about owning a record company? You know what I mean? Owning a distribution company, stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's so many more ways we can go instead of just being, you know what I mean, the hoe at the end of the day. You know what I mean? We basically just pimping ourselves out to be entertainers instead of just owning ours. You know what I mean? Being more productive in education. We need more engineers. You know what I mean? We need to bring our quality of life up higher than where it is now, instead of just, you know what I mean, athletes and entertainers. You know what I mean? With that being said, we'd like to thank our caller, Willie Styles, for calling in. You know what I mean? We appreciate you again, brother. You're always welcome on our show.
That.
You know what I mean?
Thank
I'd like to
appreciate
thank
that.
Yes,
sir.
appreciate it.
You know what I mean? Kenya, we know you had you called in for the after show. We appreciate you for you know what I mean, linking up. Anybody else want to add something before we close out?
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening and calling. We'll catch y'all on the next show.
All right. Hit us up on gftradioshow.com or www.blogtalk.com/GFTRadioShow. You know what I mean? You can always reach us on our Twitters, on our Facebooks. You can hit me on my blog at kingstruth.com. Let us know, you know what I mean, what y'all want to hear about, and we'll, you know what I mean, we'll make it happen. Thank y'all for listening.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Good night.